Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is a video for Sunday, June 8th, but I'm recording this. Actually, it's going to be for Monday, but it's a video I'm going to make tomorrow. I'll start the rest of this video tomorrow, but I want to show you one thing here because it coincides with a TV show I'm watching. So let's start here.
Good morning to you. It is Saturday, June the 7th, and we begin this hour with what is probably the most consequential legal development of Donald Trump's second term, which is that the president is now publicly turning on the Federalist Society, the same conservative legal group which he relied to pick judges during his first term, the same powerful group that helped carry him to power. Their picks include a majority of the Supreme Court.
A lot of my videos have been doing that lately, where there's jumpiness, and I don't understand why.
And hundreds of other federal judges, but this brewing feud could make Trump's next wave of judicial appointments more dangerous. From the start, this was a marriage of convenience. Trump leveraged the Federalist Society's credibility to win Republican votes. The fallout spilled into public view this week after Trump lost his tariff case before the U.S. Court of International Trade. Although a federal circuit stayed the ruling the very next day, Trump was still fuming, and on Thursday he lashed out on Truth Social, quote, "I was new to Washington, and it was suggested that I use the Federalist Society as a recommending source on judges. I did so openly and freely, but then realized that they were under the thumb of a real sleazebag named Leonard Leo, a bad person who, in his own way, probably hates America and obviously has his own separate ambitions." And
okay, so let's go back to this here. I was new to Washington. Like he said the same thing on Joe Rogan. They didn't know what he was doing his first term, which, you know, speaks a lot to the idea of having an outsider. Because everybody knows Washington, not everybody, but close to everybody knows, and everyone knows on some level, that Washington, D.C. is full of corrupt, lying scumbags and manipulators and con men and grifters and do-nothing politicians, and they keep everything status quo. So there's always this desire for an outsider. Somebody's going to come in and just use that good old-fashioned horse sense. You know, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, that old movie, I think it's called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Some guy, you know, who just is a common person who grows up with American values or whatever it is. And every country has this. That everyone, like, gets fed up with politics and they look for an outsider. And people try to meet that outsider narrative. But the problem with being an outsider is you can't go into any kind of universe, any kind of existing social system, and then come in as an expert. You know, this is a big problem in the truth community, which I'm going to get to later, when you have these pseudo-celebrities, usually failed celebrities, failed people who are struggling in some way or another. We've had this certainly with celebrities, but other types of people that are somewhat famous, even somebody like Tucker Carlson, of course, Isaac Cappy, which I'll get into in a bit. Anybody like that who comes into the truth community and immediately gets celebrity status, but they don't really know the lay of the land. They haven't done their own personal journey and you know, whatever you call the kind of things you have to go through to realize that the official story, the indoctrination you were given, is bullshit. And you have to go through stuff to, you know, and then you have to kind of figure out the lay of the land and understand the dynamics and the lingo and the stuff, the narratives, and, you know, some are disinformation. It's a whole thing. There's an evolution to it. And if you go into any kind of business and you haven't done that specific business before, just because, you know, if Donald Trump was actually successful in business, which he wasn't, like, let's say he was a really good businessman and he knew how to run, like, employees well, and he was a good administrator, and he was good at, you know, finances, and he was thoughtful, and he was really smart, and, you know, he was really good and successful. That doesn't mean it's going to transfer into politics. And the way you're treated as a boss in business is not the way that you're treated as a congressman or the president or, you know, a judge and these other things. You have different, you have a different set of rules. And you know, you're kind of like a dictator as a CEO in some ways. You have to deal with a board, but your employees have to do whatever they tell you to do, whatever you tell them to do, right? But as a president, your employees are kind of your boss, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. The voters are your boss. And then Trump, just expects his people, all these people that, Trump supporters, just to throw themselves under the bus for him like they would if he was their boss and, was paying them, right? And so, Trump didn't know what the fuck he was doing, right? And so he came in, he went with these various old school Republican institutions, political institutions, because he didn't know what else to do. And now he's bumming because some of those institutions aren't agreeing, or the judges that they picked, some of Trump's judges, are going against what he wanted from what he was, what he wants now, right? And, Trump is saying like he's the arbiter of truth. The idea that the true social is about truth, and Trump is one of the worst fucking habitual liars and somebody who's, just makes up reality as he goes, and it flip-flops back and forth and the rest of these things, right? And, these should all be red flags, but his desperate people, let's watch more of this here.
Who in his own way probably hates America and obviously has his own separate ambitions.
Anybody who's against Trump hates America. Like, that's the fucking narrative, which is, fucking silly.
Quote. Now, Trump...
He looks like a real piece of shit.
owes much of his impact on the federal bench, including on the Supreme Court majority, to the longtime Federalist leader, this man, Leonard Leo. So yes, Trump's insults are out there, but even when a broken clock is right twice a day, the Federalist Society does have its own ambitions. Their loyalty tends to be to conservative legal doctrine, not necessarily to Trump. And on occasion, Federalist Society-affiliated judges have stood up to Donald Trump. Case in point, when Trump tried to overturn the 2020 election, many of his hand-picked Federalist Society-vetted judges refused to rubber stamp that effort. One Trump appointee even opened his opinion with a sharp rebuke. Quote, free, fair elections are the lifeblood of our democracy, end quote. Since then, Trump's resentment toward the conservative legal establishment has grown, and the feeling appears mutual. As Vox's Ian Millhiser has reported, Federalist Society insiders have grown increasingly ambivalent about Trump, a shift that's starting to show at their events. Quote, at a recent Federalist Society conference on executive power, many of the speakers denounced Trump's incompetence and warned that it would prevent conservatives from achieving lasting policy victories during this administration. Some argued that Trump's signature economic policy, his tariffs, are illegal.
All right, so, this is where Trump is... now, these are old school, what they would call rhino Republicans, this whole thing. But, Trump doesn't know how to win people over. And he's so, he's so impulsive. And he's so not, like, you have to be somebody who does research. And he's not a thoughtful person. He just reacts to whatever's going on in a very impulsive way. And his instincts suck. Like, if you're going to be the kind of person Trump is, you have to have good instincts, right? And so I want to tie this into something else, though, like the way that he hijacked the truth community. Because Trump has been this, like, cult of personality Republican leader that has inspired all these various people who finally get someone to say what they actually believe. And he didn't believe it before. Like, he didn't believe these things before he became the Republican nominee. He was a Democrat till 2009. So that was, 7 years before he was elected president. And that's not that long of a time. He supported the Clintons and all these other things. And so he was never a Republican and never believed in these conservative type of things. He's very liberal sexually and morally. He's not a Christian. He doesn't even know a Bible verse. He doesn't have a favorite Bible verse, even though he says it's his favorite book. He probably can't tell you anything about the book. I mean, when he said all these things. And so, he's a faker, like he's a poser, but a poser that's got some charisma and really can tell people what they want to hear. So something happened today when I was making my video where Kash Patel came out and said Jeffrey Epstein's death was clearly a suicide. He knows suicides. And that the disappointed right-wing Trumpers, Cubies who had long waited for the Jeffrey Epstein files to be unleashed, were disappointed because they just said everything that had been said before. And he said, that there was no bombshell stuff. There was no these, whatever. And I talked about how all these dopes were, were, you know, were were given disinformation. Many of them shared things or posted things that were false, and they made the circuit around the truth community, and they wrecked the truth community. They just fucking totally wrecked it. And it showed up. I was watching the season 4 of The Boys. If you haven't seen The Boys on Amazon Prime, it's like a mockery of superhero. Like the superheroes are villainous. They're real scumbags. They're horrible people. The best villain is this guy Homelander, and he's a really good villain. Kind of a great character. And he's like the equivalent to like Superman, but he's just a narcissist, murderous sociopath. Is totally selfish. And a lot of what they do is posing and fake and staged on movie sets. And they have this company called Vought that's like a pharmaceutical company that's making all these superheroes. And they're all scumbags. And, the first couple of seasons were really good. And there's a lot of truth or narratives in that, right? But season 3 went a little bit south. And my wife hadn't watched season 4 because, there are other things to watch. And there's a lot of graphic stuff. There's like this weird superhero orgy that was kind of not only like graphic, but just weird, like all these freaks and like, freakish people. A lot of other stuff, right? Just, shock value stuff. But season 4, it opens up. In the second episode, there is this character named Firecracker who is a truther who drops these truth bombs. And the heroes of the show who are against Vought and against the superheroes and trying to kill Homelander, who's like basically indestructible. And they go to this truth con. And there is a character named Starlight who in real life fucked up her face. The actress fucked up her face. And this was covered by the right-wing shill, Megyn Kelly, and they went back and forth at it. And Starlight has left the group. She was part of the Super 7 that Homelander runs. And she has a bunch of liberal people that are working with her, like a bunch of liberal followers. And Homelander has a group of supporters called the Helmlanders, and Starlight has some group, I forget what they're called. The Starlighters. And Homelander is being charged with murder because he murdered a dude who threw something at his son, and with his laser eyes, like Superman. And he's acquitted, and they have this big brawl, and Homelander has some of his Homelanders murdered by his superhero cronies, and with baseball bats, and put out there to blame it on Starlight. And then they have all these right-wing, semi-truther Republican reporters talking about how Starlight is a pedo and, all these things. And that she has murdered these, her people are violent, liberal, anti-American people who are murdering this hero's things, right? And they're basically making Homelander into Trump. But the thing that I want to talk to about is that they have this conference called TruthCon, and they got this character called Firecracker, who is, she is supposed to be a truth, like she's a superhero that's a truther. And they have all these signs up about how Starlight is a pedo and her group of people are liberal pedos. And this woman gets up and gives a speech where she says that Starlight works with Oprah and Tom Hanks, and Oprah has been locked away like some, at Guantanamo Bay kind of thing, these goofy QB narratives, and that there's not as much evidence against Tom Hanks because the guy who was responsible for all the information was thrown off a bridge, which is what Isaac Cappy was supposed, what they believe about Isaac Cappy being killed, right? But they don't mention Isaac Cappy by name, and that's a very obscure reference. But they have all this stuff at the Truth Conference, and two of the heroes are talking, and the people who are not superheroes, but they're the ones trying to take Homelander down, and they said, yeah, people will believe anything, right? And it's really fucked because they are mocking the truth movement, and they can because of the stupidity of the. Well, she also talks about Pizzagate, basically, and that these celebrities would order something. The way they used to talk about, the Podesta emails and the Podesta references, and they're mocking all that shit, and they're making it sound like it's stupid, and a lot of it is stupid because the right-wing dopes that came in and the cubies came in made it stupid, right? But the show is loaded with actual conspiracies. Like, it's just loaded with all kinds of conspiratorial shit. They're mocking truthers, and yet they're doing all these things. This girl's dropping truth bombs, all that kind of stuff, right? And they're using this language. But it's because of the stupidity of the truth community and because Trump has embraced the truth community, but Trump is not a truther. And none of these right-wing people are. Steve Bannon, who sent Trump to Alex Jones and wanted to embrace this group, right, who are so desperate for somebody to tell them that they're right and their belief systems are legitimate. But Trump never believed in any of this shit. He's not even a right-wing person. He's not even a real Republican, right? He dabbles in some of these so-called conspiracy theories. He's had some ideas about vaccines and Obama's birth certificate, but he's not a real truther. He's not a truth seeker. And this happened for a couple of reasons. Because people found out the money and the enthusiasm and the true numbers for the truth community was in stupid people, was in dumb fucks, right? There's a lot of money in dumb fucks. Dumb fucks buy merch. Dumb fucks really want to display that they're dumb fucks. And so they don't care, and they wear stuff, they get drunk, they smash a beer can on their head, and they put on a fucking QB shirt, and, they proudly brag about their beliefs. And, they're too clueless to realize that they're dumb fucks, and they're where the action is. And so, you have this term capture. When something's captured, they use this kind of, bullshit language, right? And, the truth community was captured by the right wing and Trump and these dumb fucks. And, it just wrecked it for the rest of us. I mean, we've had to deal with all the effects of dumb fucks and right wing dumb fucks coming in and wrecking the truth community. And, the suffering that we've endured for something that was, never a movement that was going to deliver on change, right? It was never going to be something that was going to be addressed. The real concerns of the truth community were going to be things that where you go against the pharmaceutical company, or you're going against the military-industrial complex, or you're going against, money. And there's no way you're going to win out just because you realize these motherfuckers are lying to you and you're making it public. Because, the only thing that you can do as truthers is weaken people's belief in the system. And that system is built on perception. And so you're, in a sense, taking the system down. As soon as people realize the system's full of shit, then the system is taken down. There's no rebuilding the system. There's no overthrow of the powerful people. People lose faith in the dollar. People lose faith in the system. And the system explodes or implodes. And that's it. It's done. And then you have to do something else. So there's nothing that the truth community could actually do other than take down the system we're 100% dependent on. And really, no one wants to do that because, it's going to go down of its own accord, so you don't have to help it, right? But so you then have all these dumb fucks, these dumbasses who believe a bunch of stuff that's disinformation that either was manufactured by, people in the dumb fuck community that want likes and want people to, a lot of them are desperate, Isaac Cappy types and these people, desperate people who need lots of, positive feedback from other people. They need some celebrity status. They need some, the likes, the thumbs up, the money, the whatever they get from posting things that aren't true. I saw this being contaminated, and I called it out early on, and, I said this was happening, it's over, it doesn't matter. There's nothing we could do about it. We've been invaded by dumb fucks, right? And the dumb fucks, complained to me and, called me names, and, they did dumb fuck things. And so, but that's how dumb fucks roll. And, we had this capture of the truth community. Trump swooped in, but Trump said that he believed what they believed and he was going to deliver. He was going to deliver on Jeffrey Epstein. But he can't deliver on Jeffrey Epstein because a lot of the stuff that people believed about Jeffrey Epstein was bullshit. It was just made up shit that people took as fact because, they wanted to believe in things and they're part of this group. And the other part is Trump said, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Terrific fucking guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Many of them are on the younger side. Trump saying that was him acknowledging that he knew that Jeffrey was a pedo. Because he said this long before Jeffrey Epstein was Jeffrey Epstein. And so Trump is on the wrong side of this motherfucking thing, right? But the Trumpers will never, they believe that Trump is the truth. That Trump is the chosen one. He's a messiah complex, right? And so this thing has been completely fucked. And shows like The Boys get to make fun of it because it's been hijacked. But the reality is The Boys is, like so many other TV shows, is when they made this show, it was before Trump won re-election. And yet they're, demonizing Trump as the Homelander character is another version of Trump, has Trump-like qualities. And they were pushing this liberal agenda. There was a character, one of the group of guys fighting against Homelander, one of them who's had a girlfriend and was basically heterosexual, all of a sudden is bisexual and has a male lover. And one of the superheroes that now is partnering with Homelander is, I forget what her name is, but she's an African-American woman who everyone says is the smartest person in the world. But she doesn't talk like the smartest person in the world. People are really smart. You can't understand them, right? And I said this before, they're undeveloped usually spiritually or, in physical life, but they have very high IQs. They're often very strange and they are, very technical. And when they talk about their whatever they know, especially if they're talking about math or science or physics or any of these things, the rest of us just can't follow them. People with 200 IQs, 180 IQs, really high IQs, they're missing other things. And they are, just beyond people in terms of their intellectual capacity and their ability to process, whatever it is, whatever their specialty is. But they want to push this agenda. For the most part, these guys are often, white geeky guys or, Jewish guys or whatever it might be. Of course, there's Asian people that are, the brain drain that you have who become engineers, and you see them as in these professions. I mean, if you look at a spelling bee, you'll see all these Indian kids because they'll work so much harder. And the way that academics is presented in India, it's so much more glamorous. I mean, the emphasis they put on academic success, right? And so you have these cultures where being really smart and being academically successful is pushed, right? And that isn't really the case for African American people. It just isn't a part of their, the culture. But they try to push this agenda now where, there's smart people at every demographic. There's spiritual people at every demographic. But some cultures and some people produce more, they emphasize success in various areas, right? Spirituality, of course, in India, academics in India, not a lot of great athletes in India, right? There's a lot of academic success in the Jewish community, not a lot of great athletes, a lot of great these other types of people. And so, you have these cultures where certain things are emphasized. But this woke agenda, they try to say that isn't true, right? There's liberal agenda, and it's clearly showing itself in this Boys season 4. It's an absolute mess. I'm like, what happened to this fucking show? And they bet wrong because, people are all tired of that shit, right? They're all tired of feminist bullshit with Starlight and all these, all this other stuff that they're pushing. And they're, the they, them, and all that kind of stuff. They're tired. People are, they were against it all along, and now it's come out, and that's a big part of why Trump won. But anyways, the main point of this thing is that the truth community got hijacked by fucking dumbasses, and now the effects are showing. And, you have people who were into the truth community who have backed away, or they become just lurkers because of the dumbasses, right? The dumbasses have the dumb fucks have, wrecked it. All right, let's get back to the other stuff here. Actually, I want to say two more things. There is a superhero that could blow people's heads up, and she was posing as a politician. I mean, she's not revealing that she's a superhero. She has a deal with Homelander, and she's now, as of the second episode, about to become president. And, so she's a murderous superhero villain that somehow has been able to scam the system. And even though a lot of people would be against these superheroes becoming president, she's done that, which is a major conspiracy. They use the word deep state a lot, this stuff. They're integrating these narratives, right? Because they can do that because they've dumbed it down. They've made it into something stupid so they can put it in these shows, and they can talk about it in terms of Donny O'Sullivan and, reliable sources with Brian Stelsa, and not give an accurate portrayal of what the truth community used to be and the higher level narratives that are in the truth community. The other thing is the firecracker character doesn't have a real Southern accent. She has she's performing just like Alex Jones performed, this character he's created, that he said was performance art in his divorce hearings with his ex-wife. His lawyer said it was just a performance, all these things, right? Where it's all lies, it's all an illusion. And, where the truth becomes something where if you're somebody saying that you're a truth seeker, that you actually are rebelling against the lies and indoctrination of a deceptive system in an illusionary world, you're like fucked up, crazy piece of shit, right? I mean, so this is how they've managed to co-opt the truth community. And of course now with YouTube and social media platforms, especially YouTube, just basically demonetizing not just people or truthers, but independent voices out there. This whole thing is, they've been able to capture it. There's been the capture of the truth community by the powers that be, and, they've done a good job, and they had a lot of help from dumb fucks, right? Dumb fucks will always help the people at the so-called controllers, the what people call the elite. They'll always help. Dumb fucks are their biggest weapon. Like, dumb fucks just, do dumb fuck things and help the evil people enslave people because, dumb fucks do the things that they need them to do, right? Dumb fucks always come through for the so-called elite. Okay, let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so today's Sunday, June 8th. So I watched a little bit more of the show. Whatever it's called. The Boys. And it was so gross. Like the very next scene, like I paused it to do the part of the video you just saw. And I turned the show back on. And there was a scene that was so gross. It's probably the grossest thing I've seen in any of these TV shows. And, they do a lot of graphic things, shock value things. The thing that they did with this weird sort of superhero orgy was, it was an orgy, but even it was like Freakville. It was weird shit, right? And I remember hearing the filmmakers or the people who were in charge of making the show say that it was just totally unnecessary, but they did anyway. Like just, it's the show's kind of a comedy, but it was kind of meant to be funny. It was disgusting. And they did a scene that was totally unnecessary with this clone character. This character can clone itself, and it was just gross. Despicable. But then they really lean into the truther stuff. They make the sparkler firecracker character what she's selling, and she says purpose. Like she knows she's bullshitting these people with fake conspiracy theories. And then she later on was talking about vaccines cause autism and all these other things, right? So they really lean into pretty much every truther narrative, especially the right-wing QB ones. They're really leaning into them. The world's smartest character is called Sister Sage, and they keep on talking how smart she is, but she doesn't say anything that would seem like she's smart, like she's able to strategize, right? And, they give her the ability to see things and read things that other characters can't, but it isn't you can never determine who's the world's smartest person. It's not a, the IQ tests aren't a, something that's definitive, right? Like someone could have 10 higher IQ points than you and you're way smarter than them, right? It's a, there's different learning styles. It's a whole thing, right? There's just, there's also wisdom and there's, being able to do math and science and the people who do computer stuff and so, whatever it is, coding and, there's things that they're able to do that the normal people can't do, in that arena. But that, are they smart in their other aspects of their lives, right? You can look at the world's fastest person, the person who can jump the highest. These are measurable things, right? But, the most spiritual person, the smartest person, right? The kindest person, like, like these things are, you can't measure these things, right? I want to get into the other stuff. The show was really poorly rated, and I think that, they didn't realize that there were so many liberals, which we see now, that were anti the non-binary they-them stuff and all the rest of that stuff. Like there's a lot of suburban people who voted Democrat that were secretly getting pretty freaked out by what was going on. They had daughters playing sports with dudes, and which I said, just let it happen. I mean, I said this years ago. Just let this thing, let it go. Don't fight against it. I mean, not that your fighting would stop it anyway, but just watch when these, these lesbian women who are very prevalent in college and in professional sports have to compete against men. Watch, a biological man win Women of the Year, like these things. Watch how these feminists eventually will get it, like J.K. Rowling, that they're being put in a backseat again to men, right? Men are dominating their fields, and when they see that, they're going to be like, hey, this isn't for us, right? The L and the T can't get along. The L and T aren't in the LGBTQ. They're not, they're not compatible. The lesbian women and the trans men do not, they're almost like natural enemies. And so, watch all this stuff unfold. And they were talking about non-binary, Starlight and these non-binary people, and they were demonizing all these things in a way. These truthers, these stupid truthers, these, dumb QB-like truthers out there. But I think they didn't understand where the country was at and who watches superhero shows, which is a lot of, angry young men who ended up voting for Trump and these things. And so a lot of insults will watch shows like The Boys, and they bet wrong. For the time being, wokeness is dead. Like after Trump is done this term, and when the country is wherever it is, it might make a strong comeback because there's just two things going on, right? There's two movements. There's a very liberal woke movement that was predominant when Trump was president, and it lost some traction during the Biden administration, but it still was talked about as a legitimate point of view. And now it's dead on arrival with Trump winning and all these things with that. And Gavin Newsom backing off of his position on trans athletes and these things when he realized if he wants to be president, this is an issue he can't deal with. But when Trump fails, then things will swing back. But I just want to say one more thing about the truth in general. There was smart people who were doing good quality work in the truth community before all the disinformation agents were there. And there was a lot of stuff that was out there, and there was different levels to it, right? There was stuff for the dumb fucks, and then there was, stuff for people who had critical thinking skills and were, just the idea that the government lies to you. Everyone kind of knows that. Like everyone knows that the government, politicians, and media lie. Like they get caught lying all the time. The problem with what happened is that some of that is kind of just boring lies, and if someone's a liar, when politicians lie all the time, you kind of can just settle into this. Well, they're liars, right? And the problem with the right-wing truthers and truthers in general is the more sensationalistic the bullshit that they came up with, which dominated the QB narratives. And the whole Q thing was just really stupid, that some anonymous person could be trusted some anonymous person that said that they were part of the government with no fucking real proof, and would say these very vague, cryptic posts, which didn't need to be that way, just claiming that they work for the government. And, they probably did work for the government. They probably, in fact, they were, in the end, clearly an asset. Whoever it was in the beginning, whether it was some person just bullshitting, or there was no, the stuff that Q said is not true. The Q drops turned out to be completely false, all of it, right? And, that should have been like, oh my God, we got duped. And it was after Trump lost the election and the January 6th went down. And the QBs were like they were fucking embarrassed and, compromised. And Trump wasn't who they thought he was. And then they just fucking rebooted and they doubled down because they had nowhere else to fucking go, right? But the problem with all that was whatever was sensational. Like I made very thoughtful videos about Tom Hanks centering around his weird comedy bit he did with Jimmy Kimmel, where he had a daughter where he would say, that was in a pageant, one of these toddlers and tiaras thing. And he called her sexy baby. And I have a meme about that. And that was weird. He did other things that was very weird. There's a video of him coming out playing with himself when he was dressed up like a woman for the show Bosom Buddies. Like it was gross what he did. And he did a lot of weird, gross shit. And he was not the good guy. I centered it around this good guy narrative that Will Smith and Ellen all got. They were these nice, kind people that you could trust. They were, the good guy brand. And they all imploded, and I covered that, and in a thoughtful way. But the QBs just made up stupid shit that Tom Hanks was put in Guantanamo Bay and all that stupid shit that they said. Like when I made a video, the QBs would show up and go, "You're not going far enough, and don't you know about this?" And I'm like, no, that's all fucking bullshit, right? And by sensationalizing the truth and making shit up and going for things that were like sexy and, had shock value, if they failed themselves and they failed the truth community, because now everyone focused on the goofiness of these outlandish claims and the disinformation that was being spread by people, by these, there's all these shills and governmental people that are egging you on, and you fucking fell for it, the QBs. Like, they just fucking fell for it. And now this is what's happened. That's what comes out of it, right? When if you just focused on the fact that the government and the media lie, and their lies are just easily, they're easily seen, and they have, and it's not just they lie, they don't report things. They have a narrow bandwidth of things they won't cover. They won't cover any of the stuff with pharmaceutical companies. And how many people have had a bad pharmaceutical experience or know somebody that has in their lives? And, but they still get to, do what they're doing because people went for this outlandish stuff instead of just going for, the basic fact that they are all deceptive liars, and it's for-profit medicine, and it's all these other things, right? And the media and the government, and on both sides. And then the other thing was Trump lies more than anybody. And I want to segue into, let me show you this WWE thing here. Let me end with this Tom Hanks meme. I think I should have a meme of him.
Top dirty to me.
Talk dirty to me. Sexy baby. Sexy baby. You are such a sexy baby. I'm proud of you, proud of you.
So Trump went to the UFC thing. And so she tried to fist bump him. And they're all, coming in. Forbes has cover it here. They're playing Kid Rock. And some kind of UFC event. There's the cage. And then there's another one here from New York Post. So this is from New York Post. Trump arrives at UFC 13 to tremendous applause. Elon Musk absent. The New York Post, remember they had Humpty Trumpty. I'll show you that. I think I have that down. Saved somewhere. We'll come back to that. But this is what they are covering now. There he is with Dana White. There's thunderous applause. He's doing this fight, fight, fight bullshit thing, right? So, this is partly, I think he might be doing this anyway, but these people have, for the most part, very little power, right? There might be a few celebrities there, but these are, even more so with the WWE. The people who have really, they have a little bit of money they can give to Trump. They have a little bit of support they can give to him. They can write them some things online, but they don't have any power. They don't have the kind of power that Trump, will recognize. Trump may or may not run for re-election, and he may never need these people again in terms of voting. And so, why is he going out and doing this, right? A time where, and these people are all, there's no booze, right? These are 100% approval of him. Is that Mike Tyson there? I think that's Mike Tyson. Is that Mike Tyson? Is that Joe Rogan there? It must be Joe Rogan. They're whispering to each other. But this is Trump going after dumb fucks, right? These are dumb fucks. For the most part, this is, dumb fucks who really like violence. I always disliked boxing. I like watching Mike Tyson. My brother was a big Mike Tyson fan. But I dislike watching boxing because it was mostly grabbing and holding. They would, one guy would realize he's going to get his ass kicked, so he prevented the other guy from pummeling him. I mean, especially like with the heavyweights. And they would get tired, right? They would get tired out when you throw a lot of punches. It's, fights are exhausting. And, so it was dissatisfying. And so when the UFC came around, I was like, well, this is so much better because they beat the shit out of each other. But then I'm like, fuck, it's hard to watch. Like sometimes people are bleeding and they're getting punched in the face and they're laying on the ground. A lot of times they're grabbing each other and wrestling where one of the guys is on the ground in missionary position, wrapping his legs around the other guy. In fact, one of the UFC guys said he would never be in that position, but of course he was. Forget that guy's name, whatever it was. It's a very sexual position. It's very sexual in a weird way. Like they're very intimate. They're rubbing crotches. Like it's just, it's too violent and it's hard for me to watch. Like it's just, they're not fighting for like some real reason. Like they pretend they hate each other to hype up the fight, right? But so I really dislike it. Like I dislike it from it's. I mean, there's a lot of fake things in it. A lot of staged fight, a lot of manipulation for bigger paydays and things. There's always rigging in these things because of the betting and all the ways that they do that. And so let's get back to it here. So people who like this are really into violence, right? They want to see two guys beat the shit out of each other. It's something where it's not something that you should want, right? Like it's unnecessary violence. If you're defending yourself, it's one thing. But he just did his fight, fight, fight thing. His bullshit fight, fight, fight thing. And, the UFC and now is aligned with the WWE, which, of course, is much worse. It's, one of the worst things. If you haven't seen the HBO documentary about Vince McMahon, which he submitted to it, like he did it. Like it's not hiding anything. It's so gross. I'll cover that in some future video. I'll recap that. But it's really gross. And these things are very gross. And it's a lot of dumb fucks. And you can say because they're still applauding Trump and they don't know how bad he's fucking them. And Trump doesn't give a shit about dumb fucks, but he likes to be, worshipped. He likes their support, but he caters to elites. He's an elite who caters to elites, right? Let me switch over to voiceover. Let's watch the rest of this thing here. So, he's got all the support from these people. He wants to show it. He's got his dumb fuck army. But the problem with dumb fucks and dumb fuck Trumpers is essentially this. Trump came in and he, this idea of Trump is always right. When these guys wear their fucking dumb fuck hats with the Trump is always right on it. That Trump was right maybe 10% of the time. And the reason Trump is right about Joe Biden and these other people, it's easy to see through both sides and their lies and their bullshit because they all know, like, they have kind of a code that you're not supposed to say too much about the other side's bullshit because you're bullshitting too. But Trump doesn't believe in that because they're calling on him and on his bullshit all the time. And his dumb fucks are immune to anything that's being said on CNN and MSNBC, even if it's true. And that anybody who criticizes him has TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. So, he keeps these dumb fucks immune from the truth, right? Like, he's got the dumb fucks immune from the truth. But Trump, most of the things that Trump says are narratives that real truthers have fleshed out. Anything that he's put out that's truther-oriented is stuff that real truthers have put out there. And it's bullshit, it's just stuff the cubies believe, right? And so, Trump is all over the place. He says all kinds of things. Contradicts himself all the time. And so eventually you're going to be right about some things, right? But he's not right about everything. He's right maybe 10% of the time, and he's one of the biggest liars. And that's the key thing to the Trump dumb fucks. They won't admit that he lies all the time. Like they said that he has this thing called Truth Social, and 90% of what he puts out there is lies and deceptions, with withholding information. Sometimes he endorses a truther theory that's bullshit, and he knows it's bullshit. He just says it for his, to give red meat to the dumb fuck Trumpers, the Republican dumb fuck Trumpers. Trump is right about everything. Trump was right about everything, and it's 10%. He was right about 10% of the time. The other 90%, he's lying, bullshitting, fucking piece of shit, right? And so, this is where people claim to be seeking the truth, but they just really want somebody to tell them what they already believe. They just want their belief system stroked. They just want to, have some famous, powerful person acknowledge their stupid fucking dumb fuck belief system. And they want to be told that everything's going to be okay and that they're going to be saved by somebody. This is also with the Christian tradition and the bullshit stuff that they've been told about going to heaven and all these things, right? That it doesn't, there's no method that they're given to go to heaven. They're just, you just accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. You can do it at the last second. And you can be 10 seconds away from dying and you say the words, accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and boom, you're going to heaven. Okay, great. That's a good deal. I'll take that. And then you don't have to worry about it. Like, you just don't have to think about what kind of person you are or any of these other things. Trump the same way. I'll save you, and I'll make America great again. Oh, you will? Great. Fuck, I was worried about. Seems like we're going into the fucking shitter, but now that you said you're going to make America great again, boy, I feel so much better. Because I'm a dumb fuck, right? Well, tell me what you want. I'm a dumb fuck. And so, this is the dumb fuck. The Trump is right about everything. Dumb fuck thing. And so the truthers who are right about everything, or most things, right, and just in general, real truthers who are right about things most of the time, and just a mindset that's right, way of looking at things. It doesn't help us at all, right? When you're right about everything, we're fucked. Like, there's nobody going to save you. Well, let's get into it here. Let's talk about this with Elon. So Jen Psaki, who sucks, probably the worst one. She's just so stiff. She got the scraps, right? Like, you have a story that everybody's going to cover. You have to cover it. And she gets the tail end of the thing because she's late to the party. She doesn't get to go on till Tuesday, right? So Rachel Maddow had the stuff on Monday in her same time slot. And so they've already picked the bones of this thing, and Jen Psaki has to come in when it's been talked about all over the place. But she did have some things we haven't seen yet here.
Obviously, as all of you know, because I know you have all been paying attention to this, a lot has happened since we last spoke, and we're going.
Yeah, and you got fucked on this thing. She's on from Tuesday to Friday in Rachel Maddow's slot. She's getting paid like a fifth of the money, and she's working 80% more, right?
To get to all of it, I promise. But to kind of understand how radically everything has changed today, I think we need to go back to this moment. This was just 6 days ago, not even a week ago, that Donald Trump was practically
Look at how defensive he is. Like he's fuming here.
fawning over Elon Musk during his Oval Office send-off. I mean, Trump even gave Musk a big, shiny gold key. Look at that.
It's not gold. I mean, he gave him $300 million, and he gave him a fake gold key, a fool's gold key that doesn't open shit, right?
Very weird, as a token of his appreciation. And he said that even though Musk was leaving the government, he would still very much be a part of this team.
Wait, does he have a shirt that what does his shirt say? I wonder what his shirt says there.
He said that even though Musk was leaving the government, he would still very much be a part of this team.
Many of the Doge people, Elon, are staying behind too, so they're not leaving. And Elon's really not leaving. He's going to be back and forth, I think.
Elon's not really leaving. He'll be back and forth, even though he's living somewhere.
I mean, just so stiff. Like, how do you not, like, you've been doing this for like a year. How do you not, like, loosen up and relax into it? They always want to go out, and Trump always wants to say that whatever they're doing is great, and whoever's doing it is wonderful. And, like, that should tell the dumb fuck Trumpers everything they need to know, because these guys who he said are the best people, who he listens to. Remember, he just did this with the Federalist judge thing, which I covered at the beginning. He listened to these guys to give him the judges to appoint, because he didn't know anything about appointing judges. And now he's saying those guys hate America, right? So they went from guys he listened to, and he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices and many other federal judges based in the Federalist recommendations. And he did this, and now you have those guys who are lifers on the Supreme Court. And Trump is pissed at these guys for, not agreeing with everything he says. Like, he thought he was going to have judges that would just do whatever he thought. And he kind of does. And so, Trump think about how much he endorsed Elon Musk and how much he praised Elon Musk. And for it to end this way, it's, it shows you what kind of person Trump is. Like, he's really great at bragging and hyping something up. He's a hype man. He hypes up whatever he's doing, and then it shits the bed. Because he's a grifter, right? And that's what grifters do. They hype their grift, and they lie to you, and they get you to believe in what they're selling you. And then it turns out to be shit because of grift, right?
Somewhere else, we're still committed to each other and to the children. And by children, I mean the 22-year-olds Musk and Trump put in charge of the federal government, obviously. But that was the message out of the White House 6 days ago, not even a week ago. Trump and Musk were parting ways on what appeared to be somewhat friendly terms. Now, we knew at least part of the reason why Musk likely decided to leave when he did. I mean, for one thing, if Elon Musk stayed on as a full-time White House advisor, he would have had to disclose many of his own business conflicts. And we're going to be digging into those later this hour with the great Norm Eisen and this new exclusive.
Oh, my God. It sounds like something I just totally don't want to see. Right? Norm Eisen sounds like a guy I just don't want to hear about. Right? We know there's conflict of interest, but, bring some fucking bean counter in there and go through it. I mean, we know it's all a scam.
Report. But we know that at the time of Musk's exit, his biggest company, Tesla, was in a bit of a downward spiral. Thanks to consumer boycotts, you can see many of them across the screen, and protests and pretty intense public blowback. We also know that Elon Musk was very upset that Trump and congressional Republicans were killing the electric vehicle tax credit.
We don't know that for sure because, again, this is the Doge father. He's the Doge father. It looks like that's what that research said.
That benefited Musk's company.
But, what my son was saying is it benefited all these other companies that it's his competition. And those companies now will suffer. Trump is just taking a hammer to a lot of these liberal things. California's fucked. I mean, they're taking back all their federal monies.
It's not hard to imagine how it must have felt for Musk when he left Washington, got back home, woke up Saturday morning perhaps, dug back into the books at Tesla, and realized just how bad things were at his biggest company. Because by Tuesday, Musk was attacking Trump's big ugly bill on X, calling it a disgusting abomination, and saying that it would send the country into debt slavery.
This is a part that I wanted to say, because I didn't see these before. Immense level of overspending will America into debt slavery. This is debt slavery for American people. America is in the fast lane to debt slavery. It's already debt slavery. I mean, if you are paying $8 trillion in your expenses, and your income is $5 trillion, nobody can operate like that. I always make the example of an individual person. So that's, if you're spending $80,000 a year, and $10,000 of that is interest on your loans, so it's a straight up interest, and you're only making $50,000, so you're just going to get into more debt, right? And so the next year it's going to be you're spending $90,000, and you're still only making $50,000. But with Trump's tax cuts, maybe it goes back to $40,000. Like the income is getting less, and and this is the whole idea of the usury-based economic system, a usury-based economy, where there is the loan, and then there's the interest on the loan. And that your economy is always going to be, at best, it's going to be equal to the loan, but the interest is not accounted for. And over, interest across the board. If you think about all the interest that's there, the sorcerer's fee, the sorcerer's fee of they're conjuring up money, the bank's interest and all the interest across the board, the global interest is like hundreds of trillions of dollars, and it just accumulates. And then there's interest on interest, right? Because the interest becomes part of the principal that you owe. And so that's why the debt-based system doesn't work. And so we're already in debt slavery, but now, like whatever his reason he's pitching this fit is because he went all in, and then Trump was bullshitting. Because Trump isn't right about everything. Trump is all over the place and says things that, he might turn out to be right. They're not things he thought of. They're things that he's heard from other people. He's not an original thinker. But this is the whole thing. And the dumb fucks fall for this, right? But the debt slavery's already happened. We're already fucked. And if anybody's a real truther, they'd say we're already fucked. We're already fucked. I mean, even I got the AI bot to basically admit this. Like there's, the AI bot says more than likely we'll muddle along than have some big economic collapse, doomsday kind of thing. We'll just keep on going farther into debt, losing more and more of our lifestyle. Social Security and Medicaid will disappear, these things, right? And then it'll just be like, oh, we're fucking a third world country. And the whole world economy will be fucked. And then it'll be mass starvation and all these things. And then, and maybe then it'll be like a big event. There'll be one, there'll be the straw that broke the camel's back of the collapse, where everyone acknowledges the system's fucked. And they've been lied to by everybody. And we bought into lies and fake fucking hopium. There's dumb fucks love the hopium, right? The number one drug of a dumb fuck is hopium. The drug of choice is hopium.
Of course, that all put the Republican Party in a very awkward position, as we've been talking about through the course of this week. After all, they've been banking on the idea that Elon Musk was going to keep throwing money at them through the midterms. Now, by Wednesday, House Speaker Mike Johnson was openly pleading in an awkward and embarrassing and desperate way with Elon Musk to please return his calls. I think he's still pleading a couple days later. But just 24 hours later, things got a lot weirder and a lot more personal. Because by this afternoon, Elon had let loose a barrage of tweets attacking the president.
Okay, so we know the rest of these things. I wanted to show you the debt slavery comment. And, so this is where Jen Psaki just picking up scraps of stuff that people are already ready to move on to a news story. Okay, so let's get to this guy. This guy's also Velshi's picking the scraps. He usually has better stuff.
Joining me now, someone who knows exactly what it's like to fall from Donald Trump's good graces, Michael Cohen. Michael spent over a decade as Trump's personal attorney and fixer and confidant before pleading guilty.
It was like 17 years, right? This was Trump's number one lawyer. He was Trump's fixer. This is the kind of fuck that Trump had around him. Was Trump right about everything to hire this guy that ended up going to prison on Trump's behalf, paying off Stormy Daniels, and then turning on Trump? Was Trump right about everything then? Was Trump right about the Federalists? No. The Federalists, Trump says now, are, they hate America. They hate America? No, Trump's a dumb fuck. Trump's not right about everything, right? Like, he wouldn't hire people like this if he was right about, he's right about everything.
To federal criminal charges related to his involvement in hush money payments connected to his old boss. Michael is a principal at Crisis X, a crisis management company. He's the author of the books Revenge, How Donald Trump Weaponized the Department of Justice Against His Critics, and Disloyal, a memoir. He's also the host and creator of The Real Michael Cohen on Substack.
The Real Michael Cohen. How many people watch The Real Michael Cohen? Like, how many views does he get? What's Substack? Like, I've been hearing a lot about. I guess it's like shit you got to read.
You are uniquely positioned to understand this fight.
Sadly.
Yeah. Just to be clear, whatever you think the bromance was between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, you were the closest person to Donald Trump other than his family. In fact, you've argued perhaps in some cases closer than his family. You were his confidant.
Correct.
You got like late night, middle of the night phone calls from him.
Sure, 4 a.m. in the morning, 11 p.m. at night, every single night for over a decade. I was on...
You got called at 4 a.m.? You're sleeping and Donald Trump's calling you up and you got to wake up and talk to him at 4 a.m. in the morning?
Your show, Ali, several months back, and I told you that this bromance was not going to last long.
Was it going to last long? It wasn't going to last long. This was his fucking guy, right? This New York fucking, lawyer.
I write about it in my Substack, where
my Substack, I write about it. I write about it in my Substack. It wasn't going to last long.
I turned around and I described it, and everybody has seen this. It's the lean in by Trump, the whisper, and then that gaze into your eyes where you think that he's looking at you. What he's looking at is his own reflection in your pupils. He doesn't care about Elon Musk. He used Elon Musk for what he needed. Initially, it was the money so that he didn't have to lay out any of his own. And also, more importantly, for his access with X. That was the single most important thing.
Yeah, I already talked about this.
So Elon's not wrong when he says that he helped to bring, Elon said that he's the one that delivered the election. I'm not so sure we can say that, but he certainly didn't hurt.
So let's talk about that because...
Let's talk about that.
That's a weird thing for those of us who live in a democracy, right? You vote for somebody because you think they're more aligned with you. You hope they do the right thing. And if they don't, you throw them out of office the next time, or you campaign against them, or you protest, or you phone them, whatever. The entitlement that Elon Musk, and look, I don't know which one to like or dislike in this thing. The enemy of your enemy is not necessarily your friend in this case. But it is remarkable, the entitlement that Elon Musk thinks he bought the presidency.
Why do you think people give money to politicians? Why the fuck would you give money to them? Because you believe in them? Why did Trump give money? Why did Biden's son get paid so much money by a Ukrainian gas company and he never went to the Ukraine? Like, he never went to his job. And he knew nothing about Ukrainian gas or any kind of gas other than the fucking, some like whippets or something. The only kind of gas he knows about was stuff that would get you high. And it's to buy access. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, Velshi? It's to buy access. Trump has a fucking fixer. You're sitting there talking to Trump's fixer, right? Like, these people are corrupt motherfuckers who do criminal things, and they need people like a lawyer to get them out of trouble, right? Especially when they run their mouth as much as Trump did. And they bang porn stars and all these other things. That's why he needed a fixer. Trump needed a fixer because Trump isn't right about everything. Trump is right about being a scumbag.
And he's expecting a return on that investment.
Well, he already got the return on the investment. I mean, let's be clear. Since Trump became president of the United States, Elon Musk increased his net worth by over $200 billion. So, you put $280 million in, right. You pull out $200 billion.
10x investment.
That's a pretty good investment by any standard. Where Elon Musk is making a mistake, the feud should not have gone on the way that it did. And I say that because...
You say that. Why did it did?
While Elon Musk may be the richest man in the world, Donald Trump is the most powerful man in the world. And as we've already seen, and I know this firsthand, I know this better than anybody because I was that guy, the one that Trump leaned into, the one that he whispered into the ear. You can show 100 videos.
You used to lick my earlobe. I mean, it was great.
Of the two of us together. Everybody right now in the White House, all of his enablers, his sycophants, the folks that are around him from, let's say, Marco Rubio, Howard Lutnick, Steve Witkoff, even MAGA Mike Johnson, they all want to be that guy. They want it to be, like after I left, it was Jared Kushner.
Right.
They want to be that guy that's in Trump's orbit 24/7. The problem, though, is it never ends well for anybody. Remember,
it never ends well for anybody. That's the quote that's the quote. You can't see it, but that's the name of this video. It never ends well for anybody. It ended well for Jared Kushner. He walked away with $2 billion. He got out at the right time. And he's not a part of this debacle. But anyways, the rest of them, it's like what I said. Trump says these people are the greatest people. They're his right-hand people, his confidants, his whatever. They all fucking turn on him. And Trump turns on them. Trump turns on them first, usually. And so how can he be right about everything when he's wrong about the most important people making the most crucial decisions? So there's more AI stuff here.
Justine, thanks for joining us. What is the future of Hollywood and human beings with AI?
I think Justine has a future in science fiction movies or horror movies.
Right here, right now.
Well, two things going on. We have the more practical matters of kind of the dissolving of Los Angeles and Southern California, and everything that supports the business here, real estate values, tourism, everything. I mean, it's just going to be quite an economic disaster considering how much in Southern California is in and around the business. The second thing...
nobody's going to give a shit about that. So let's let her finish here.
Is, as far as AI and film, I think we're going to see streamers using the years and years of viewing history that they have on you and create customized pieces for you. They won't bother to copyright those because it'll be like Kleenex. And then for an upcharge, they can face replace you on films that they can license for this purpose from studios and other places that have libraries. You could say, put my face on Luke Skywalker's body today.
So we've talked about...
Oh my gosh, it's so horrible. So he's saying that you could get your own private movie where your face is on Luke Skywalker, right? It would be interesting to see Justine's face on, I don't know, Jabba the Hutt or Yoda. They're basically saying, she's saying, well, we already know, like I already covered this, that AI can create people. They can just create actors. And they can write stories. That joke the AI told, none of my viewers got it either. And AI gets a lot of things wrong. And so, truth are things, but also just, it searches the internet and it doesn't think for itself and it comes up, whatever AI is doing, a lot of times they just have horrible answers. I've noticed this. I use ChatGPT on my phone, and they give smaller answers. And sometimes they get it right, and it's much better than Siri was. But it's still not, it's far from perfect. because it's, it can synthesize through a lot of information, but it doesn't understand the truth or point of view. And I showed you that when I explained it to it. And it, was complimentary or supportive in its answer back, knowing that this would be a personal thing, making it sound like I was, going to be offended, which I wasn't, by its mainstream views. But it really doesn't understand things. And that, you can see that with not being able to make a joke. Like, it's not funny. Like, AI has not, it can mimic things. It can tell jokes that are already out there. But creating its own joke, it sucks at. And so, but in that, it can create plot lines and storylines based in all the other stuff that's out there. And we know that. And it can create people. It can make AI-generated people. And so that look, fairly realistic. It's just going to get better. So Hollywood's done. There's going to be no need for Hollywood writers who are already, they're undervalued. And then they don't need all these overpaid actors. And, whatever celebrity culture that needs to be there. There was a really shitty movie called The Congress that a few of my viewers recommended. It took Robin Wright, who was the princess and Princess Bride, and she sold her likeness to this company that could use it in this cyber world, cartoon world. It's hard to get through the movie, but it's totally about this stuff. And she, they used her as some sort of icon, and that there was just all these things that she's talking about here, Justine Bateman. And so AI is going to be able to create all the things that Hollywood used to do. And so then there's no need for sets. There's no need for these places. That Hollywood is already no longer Hollywood, because most of the films are being filmed in Atlanta or Canada or elsewhere. Like, the Hollywood set's just too expensive to do it in California. And so California is, like the world's fifth largest economy. I mean, it's almost, bigger than, just all the things that are there. It's got huge farming and agriculture, and then all the tourism and things, and, people going there. It's going to be a pit, like Escape from L.A. It's just run down. It's too many people. It's too much criminality. They just released 2,000. Trump just sent in 2,000 National Guard because of the riots there, the ICE riots. All the stuff. And so nobody's going to shed a tear for Hollywood. But this is going to be fairly rapid, where they realize they can make movies so much cheaper and not do all the things that they did before with actors and things. It might start off with actors, actors plus AI, which already is a part of so many films with special effects. But then slowly it'll just be all AI. And it'll probably be just as good or better content. And the rest of these things will just disappear. California is already tanking.
About it a little bit on my previous show, but it's kind of crazy to think about. So theoretically then, does time matter? Could Steve McQueen effectively make, and I'm using air quotes, make a new movie today?
Yes, of course. If his estate licensed his image, sure. So there's so much to say about this, but just you can imagine if you're a new actor, you're competing. It used to be you compete against in auditions those who were your age, your look, and available during the time that the film's going to shoot. But now you're going to compete against every actor that's ever lived at any age.
I assume that Steve McQueen's estate could, and I love Steve McQueen, by the way, they could license that out for a ridiculously small amount of money. They wouldn't, but they could. And therefore, some human actor who's alive and trying to pay the rent and put food on the table is not going to get paid, because the estate of Steve McQueen, which is already very wealthy, I'm sure, will get paid. This seems seismic for the industry.
Yeah, the industry that we had for 100 years is done. What we have now is sort of a conveyor belt of content, and then
okay, so boo-hoo. Hollywood's done. Now, this is why I stopped covering celebrity videos, because real shit is happening out in the world. and celebrity stuff is like it's fading, which is kind of great, but you know, it is whatever it is. Like it's just AI created content will no longer have the human element, right? Like there's things missing in the AI. Doesn't have a soul, and it's not alive. It doesn't make choices, right? It's not, it's not compelled by emotions, and it's not, lonely or whatever, right? It doesn't have all the things that, go into good writing. It doesn't have human experiences. It has collective information that it can synthesize, take other people's work and creative content, and put it together in, storylines and plot lines. And, it could also be fed by humans who will then, you can, I'm going to have my AI edit my book. I just got to figure out how to do that. And then my second book's ready to go for the, the whatever it is. I don't remember the trilogy, the name of my thing. But Egregore has been sitting there ready to go. I just need to edit it. And I'm going to have it do that. And then, I'll put that up on whatever, Amazon. Anyways, let's get to the next thing here. So the Biden's former press secretary is now an independent. She wrote a book called Independent, and I got the clip from that I've been waiting to show, but I want to show that towards the beginning of the video. I have a bunch of other cool clips. I can't remember all of them that people sent me. So I'm going to leave that for the next video. I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. I just want to say one more thing about the boys show. The character Firecracker is anti-Semitic, and there's a bunch of anti-Jewish stuff in there that's coming from the right, which we now know is the left is the one that's now considered anti-Semitic. The left-leaning schools, Harvard, so they missed on a lot of these things, or they just don't give a shit about accuracy, right? Because there are a lot of people in the truth community that dislike Jews and also like Trump, it's a whole thing. But, it's not the prevailing narrative. And I wonder how much AI was a part. Like, I think AI is a part of writing everything now. Because you can, what it's really good at doing is taking what you say and synthesizing it into coherent talking points and other things. And then, if you put in these other sort of, I don't know, filters or algorithms in the AI about understanding what the masses want to hear and these things, right? And so it can shit out it can shit out quality, scripts and talking points that appeal to the masses. But when you look at this UFC thing with Trump getting applause, I mean, a rousing ovation, like what the fuck are they watching, right? Like they think Trump's rocking it. Like it's amazing. And, this is, and like I said, the money for the truth community is in the dumb fucks. Like if I really appeal to the dumb fucks, there's a lot more of them than people who, are more thoughtful and more analytical and more, spiritual and more, balanced and more, and less, like everybody wants sensationalistic bullshit, right? Like, even though I talk about things in a way that's much more, bombshell stuff in terms of the collapse of civilization, the whispers of the Bridewell prophecies, what they're talking about, and the transformation of people, like the positive part, the spiritual transformation. But God is subtle, and I talk about it in subtle ways. And I don't talk about like some, oh my God, Chicken Little shit, the sky's falling, and all that Alex Jones bullshit. Because what good does that do, right? Other than bring in income. You can scare people and make money off of them, or you can appeal to people's anger and hatred and make money off of them. But it doesn't make the world a better place, right? You don't uplift people. The truth of what's going to happen and the truth of what's going on is the truth. But there's no reason to fucking make it into some, more than it is, and then make the emotions be more than they should be. Because in reality, it's just what happens. Like, this fear of your death is something they've marketed sex, they've marketed fear of your death, they've marketed, these things where they've really pushed the envelope. They've made enjoyment of your life something where, I want to keep on enjoying. But when you suffer you suffer the things that you're supposed to be suffering and not take pills or not take things to, inebriate yourself, block your ability to feel pain, beta blockers and all that kind of shit, then you don't feel the pain, right? You don't feel the pain of life. And there's pain. Like there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of, the pain of love, the loss of a loved one, separation from a loved one, these things, and all of this. And so people are oblivious to all those types of things. And, I mean, it's just all right there. And so when you have that kind of stuff, people think their lives are better than they are, and they fear death because there's nothing else. They're not connected to their spiritual side, their soul side. And so there's no sense that this is a temporary situation. Like if you looked at this as being temporary, and that your soul is very clear that it would rather not be here. I mean, if it had a choice between being in the etheric world, being here, it would be in the etheric world. But there's no choice for most people. Like most people are stuck coming back here, and they're just setting themselves up for worse and worse lives into the future in a post-apocalyptic planet where they've become so materialistic and so one-sided that when there is a spiritual, revolution, a spiritual renaissance, they're going to miss out because they're just too fucking gross, right? They've gone too far over to the material side, the demonic side of things. Anyways, it's all there for people to see. So let's wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.